Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Sue Schoening from the Soul Lighthouse, and wherever you are in the world watching this, I really hope that you and yours are healthy, and I hope that you are in a good space as you are riding out this coronavirus epidemic. Now, we are incredibly late with this energy report, and I have to confess, I have been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. Normally, we get it done at the beginning of every month, and here we are almost a week into April, and I've only just been able to get myself to sit down and get this energy report. And for a while I was sitting, what's wrong with me? Here we are, we're in a space where the world is absolutely in a space of chaos. We're completely locked down. We've got more time now than we normally do. Why can't I use this time to be able to put this energy report together? And I'm sure you will relate with me when I turn around and say we might have more time, but we are in a space where most people are exhausted at some level. We're mentally bombarded, we're emotionally bombarded, we're physically exhausted because our bodies are in the space of fight and flight. And so here we are fighting against this absolute exhaustion that we have, that is a very real aspect to this. We might not be in a space where we are sick, thank God, or our loved ones are sick, but we are all affected by this epidemic, whether we like it or not. I read a report the other day that said 3.5 billion people right now are in some form of lockdown or other. 3.5 billion people. That's half the world's population that right now are in a space where their life has been temporarily suspended, working from home in lockdown, not able to go out and do their business, not able to go out and earn their money and do their work, go to the shops as normal. All of this is happening. And I'm sure you've heard of that phrase, collective consciousness, that here we are, and there is this constant bombardment of information and constant bombardment of anxiety and stress and worry and information and misinformation and conspiracy theories and fake news, and 24/7 that is being bombarded over and over and over again. It's exhausting. It's mentally exhausting. It's emotionally, we're wrung out. And physically, we're in a space where there's this constant, almost adrenaline surge that is saying, get ready to go. No, don't. Yes, no, yes, no. And so the kindest thing that we can do for ourselves as we go through this is to remind ourselves to be kind to us, to be kind. We've never done this before. We've never done anything like this before. And of course, it's going to wreak havoc on the little ecosystem that we have around us. Now, I'm incredibly lucky. I work from home. And I work with people from all over the world, so 5, 6 different people a day. And everyone that I speak to seems to echo the same kind of thing. They're not necessarily worried about them getting sick. There isn't this panic of, oh my God, I'm going to die. The panic and the worry is more, I hope nobody in my family or my loved ones or my friends don't get sick. The panic and the worry is more about what happens if this goes on for too long. What happens if this extends another month or another 3 months? What's going to happen to my job? What's going to happen to my business? What's going to happen to my livelihood? Now, all of that energy is just going on 24/7. It's just going on and going on. And so it creates this rolling energy of anxiety and stress and worry. You can't go on social media, you can't watch the news, you can't pick up a newspaper without being bombarded by this. It's the topic of conversation in most households. So before we go any further with today's video, is just agree to be kind to yourself, because we've never done this before. And it's understandable that we might be finding ourselves being exhausted and worn out and stressed. If you need to sleep more, do so. If you need to be in a space where you rest a little bit more, do so. If you need to get up and maybe walk around the garden, give yourself permission and time out to do so. So, what is really going on? Why are we in such a god-awful state? What is really going on? Well, I want you to imagine that everybody is crammed into a tiny little room in a tiny little house. And they're sitting on top of each other, and there's no room for anybody to move. And because they're sitting on top of each other, they're rubbing each other up the wrong way, and tempers are getting flared, and nobody can move to get out of this tiny little room. We've got Saturn, Ketu, Jupiter, Mars, and Pluto all sitting on top of each other right now in exactly the same space. And this is what is happening. That went into this space halfway through February, and it is going to be with us as we move into May. So we can't expect that this is going to be a quick and easy fix. We are in this space until we get to at least halfway through May. And this is what is happening. Saturn, big, slow, ponderous, moving Saturn, is running the show for the next 5 years. And Saturn's biggest message is to go within. Saturn governs imprisonment, isolation. He's the hermit. He's hardworking. He needs to be introspective. He is the contracting. He's the in-breath, and he likes to do things alone. Saturn's energy doesn't like to be out there, dancing on tables. Saturn likes to be in a space where he's pulled within, introverted within, introspective within. And Saturn's energy is very much about isolating and pulling within. Now, he's sitting on top of Jupiter. Jupiter's message is completely different. It's a completely opposite message. Jupiter's message is all about big and expansion. It's generous. It's wisdom. It's out there. Here's what I know, and let's actually get it out there. So Jupiter is loud, and Jupiter is big, and Saturn is within. So you can imagine having this extrovert standing right next to the introvert. They're going to brush each other up the wrong way, because the extrovert's going to get irritated with the introvert, and the introvert's going to get irritated with the extrovert. So that's the first thing that we've got going on, and they're both sitting on top of Mars. Mars is about law and order. It's about the military. It's about the army. It's about the police. It's about rules. It's about regulations. So this is one of the reasons why we're seeing that the army is being mobilized and the police are more in service right now, because they're trying to get control of this situation. So here's what we've got. Saturn and Jupiter, they're two opposing energies. Saturn's the introvert and Jupiter's the extrovert. But here, as long as they don't sit on top of each other, they're generally neutral. Well, now they're sitting on top of each other, so they're not quite as neutral. They're irritated with each other. Mars respects Jupiter because Jupiter is loud and, says what it wants. But Mars and Saturn cannot stand each other, because Mars wants to go out and say, do this, do this, do this. And Saturn turns around and says, let's actually pull within. So who wins this little fight here? Well, at the moment, Mars is winning the fight, because Mars is saying, you've got to do this, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do this. And so what is Saturn saying? Well, then I'll sit in my little home and I'll stay within. So this is what we've got going on out there. On top of this, we've got Ketu. Ketu's energy is all about secrets and lies. Ketu is all about deception. It's all about fake news. This is why we've got conspiracy theories just pouring out of the woodwork every time you turn around. Ketu's energy is about poisons, it's toxic, it's viral loads. Ketu's energy is about assassinations, it's about the thief that comes in the night. It's that kind of energy sitting on top of Pluto. And Pluto is known as the planet of destruction and creation, so the death before the rebirth, so endings and beginnings. And we've got all of this happening all in the same space, all at the same time. You've got to believe that there's an enormous amount of energy that is going on between all of these planets, and they're all clustered in this same energy all at the same time until we get to the 3rd of May at the very earliest, but generally, typically until we get to the 16th. Between the 16th and the 29th of May, we're going to see that things are changing. This is a long period that we have. And so we need to kind of get used to the idea that this is not just a quick 2-week lockdown. This is not just a 3-week and then it's done. It might take a while before we go back to business as usual. So here's what I'm getting asked practically every minute, every time I speak to somebody, and I know that so many other Jyotish practitioners are getting asked the same thing, is did we see this coming? Well, we saw something was coming, but did we necessarily see that it was going to be a viral pandemic? No. We knew that there was going to be an effect when we have Saturn on top of Jupiter, on top of Mars, on top of Pluto, on top of Ketu. Absolutely. Did we know that it was going to be a viral pandemic of this caliber? No. And those people who are saying that they've seen this coming, good luck to them, because most people that I have spoken to are saying we knew that something was coming, and now we can look back with 2020 vision and we can say, yeah, that's the perfect storm. But were we able to see going forward, oh, that it is going to definitely be a pandemic? No, it was one of the possibilities. So here's what we did see coming. This is what we did see coming. And it's interesting because I went back to the video that I put at the beginning of this year. And this is what we said in January. We said in January 2020, Saturn was going to move into Capricorn. Both Saturn owns Capricorn. So Saturn was going to be in a space where it calls the shots. And it was going to put the focus into social structure once again. And that Saturn is going to be running the show for the next 5 years, because in 22, halfway through 22, it moves into Aquarius, which is also a Saturn sign. So Saturn is king of the pile right now. And we said that this 5-year transit was going to impact on the entire world, because it was going to change our value system and it was going to change our democracy. It was going to have massive impacts on the way that we ran our democratic societies. And we said that the translation of this we were going to start seeing as Saturn moved through this 5-year period, that it was going to have a massive impact on our governments, on our corporate structures, on social media, on money, on privacy. Now you just have to look and see what's happening here as they're bringing out privacy, where they want to track people, who's been in contact with the virus. We can see that money is being hugely under the spotlight right now, as everybody is scrambling to try and survive through this virus. That social media, oh my God, social media, the kindest things we can do to ourselves is get off it, because it is just filled with so much fake news that it is traumatizing. That there are changes in massive corporates as they're beginning to realize that this globalization and this super corporate that we have that is controlling the supply chain is dangerous in a time like this. And we can see that governments are in a space where they're being impacted hugely by this. Did we know that it was a virus that's going to do this? No, we don't. But now you can look at it and you can see how elegant, because all of these things that are indicated that were going to be on the agenda as we moved from January, they're all happening. Every single one of these areas is happening. We said that gurus with feet of clay were going to be exposed and they were going to be brought down. And whether these were fake prophets, whether these were fake teachers, whether these were fake politicians, whether they were fake corporates, that gurus with feet of clay who've been leeching off people and leeching off the system were going to be pulled down. And we can see that this is also, the stage is being set for this. We said, as we started off in January, this is the exact slide that we used. We said self-care is an absolute must as you go through this year. Why? Look there. We said because there was the possibility of viral flare-ups and autoimmune being compromised. We said that we were told in January we need to pay attention to our health. We need to pay attention, mind, body, spirit. We needed to pay attention to what was going on within. And in fact, last month's message had exactly the same thing: self-care, 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 self-care. I find this, as we put it together, I'm finding it fascinating that the clues were there all the way along. Now we know why, but as we look at those clues, it's like, oh my word, they were all there. They were all there. They were giving us this information to protect ourselves, to get ourselves ready, to get ourselves prepared for this. And then we said that the Rahu Ketu transit, as we moved towards September, was going to see a change in social structures, the value of money, the harnessing of resources, and the challenging of authority paradigms. Now, these are slides that we used. I've just actually copied them, pasted them from our January 2020 report. And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this and I'm going, oh my word. Oh my word. So we didn't see that there was going to be the corona pandemic. But what we did see, the stage being set for this. So here we are in a space where we can see this is all unfolding before our very eyes. All of this is unfolding. But as always, and you know, I'm always, I find it so important that it's not just that we know what's going on, because that, you know, that's nice, that's great. What are we supposed to do with it? Now that we've got the knowledge, you know, like we've got everything sitting on top of each other, Saturn and Ketu and Pluto and Mars and Jupiter all sitting on top of each other and brushing everybody up the wrong way, and that it's having all of this impact on all of these different areas. What are we supposed to do with this? So, you know, there is so much fear and anxiety and stress and worry that is out there. And it's not just about health, as I said, it's about the money and the economy and the job and all of these things. And can we survive? And how are we going to be safe? And can I pay my bond or my mortgage at the end of this month? So we are in a space here where we have to take all of that information and apply it very practically. So here's what April is here to tell us. The message here is, if the doors to the outside world are closed, go within. That if the doors leading outside are all in a space where they're being shut one by one by one, this is the time where we go within. Remember, Saturn runs the show for the next 5 years, and Saturn is happiest when it is in a space of isolation and introspection. Saturn is an energy that says if the door is locked, step away from that door and go within. Go on a journey of discovery, because it is an energy that says when the doors to the world are closed, the doors within are open. And we follow the doors that are open. And this means that it is the perfect time to work on you, to work within, to be with you, to be in a space of self-care, self-understanding, self-gentleness, self-awareness, self-recognition. So I know it's easier said than done, but when everything outside is being locked down and everything outside is being barricaded, this is not the time to try and break through those barricades. This is the time to go within. And please remember this. There is no point going fishing when the tide is out. And so for all of us who are in a space where we've got to get this done and we've got to get that done, and what about this? Remember right now, the tide is out. And so going fishing is a wonderful thing to plan, but actually going out there and putting the little worm on the hook and casting your rod out, if the tide is so far out, your little worm is going to fall on the sand. And so there is no point in going fishing when the tide is out. And I firmly, firmly believe this, that when the tide is out, we need to follow nature support. Nature is not supporting right now going outside. Nature right now is not supporting high tide activities. Nature is supporting low tide activities. So think, what is it that is being uncovered within during this low tide? Here's another analogy. No boats float on a low tide. So if you're in a space saying, what the hell's wrong with me, and I can't get things going, and like I've got to get this boat moving, and there's so much pressure, I've got to get this done and got to get this done and got to get this done, please remember this. No boat floats on a low tide. Not just your boat, no boats float on a low tide. And so you can be in a space of stress and panic trying to get your boat floating, but if there's no water in the harbor, it's not going to happen. And so we need to be in a space where we look around and we realize there is no boat, no water in this harbor. And so I'm not going to do any of those activities to push myself to get this boat floating. I'm going to do what I need to do now that we've got low tide. So I'll do the maintenance on the boat. I'll go underneath and I'll paint the hull. I'll make sure that there's no holes there. I'll do all the patching up that needs to be done so that when the tide comes back in, my boat is ready to float again. And so this is such an important thing from now until we get to the end of April. Absolutely, please, please, please be in a space that says, what is it that is being exposed here? That might be my relationships, that might be within, that might be I've got some clearing up to do inside, that might be going into a space and really honoring yourself. It might be meditation, it might be self-healing. Think now in terms of your business. This is not a time for getting out there and launching huge, massive campaigns. But it might be a time for planning what you're going to be doing. Not getting out there and putting huge pressure on yourself because it's not working, but planning what you're going to be doing. This is a time, think of it, it's a maintenance shutdown. When I was a kid, my dad used to work on power stations. And once a year, they would be shut down. The power station would shut down and the maintenance crew would go in and they would fix what needed to be fixed. Think of this like that This is a shutdown period. This is a maintenance period so that we can do the overhauling, we can do the fixing, we can do what needs to be done that you can't do when you're running around at full steam. So please just remember this: no boat floats on a low tide. And this particular meme that is doing the rounds on social media, if this has put you under pressure, please, I there is so much stress, so much anxiety, so much self-worry here, that to now put enormous pressure on top of you that says, oh, and if you haven't come out of here with a new hustle, then you suck even more. It's cruel. It's very, very cruel. So if you don't come out of this quarantine with a little bit more self-understanding and a little bit more self-gentleness and a little bit more self-care, that's what you need to read into this. The time will come, and promise you, as we move into May, the time will come to put your foot on the accelerator all over again. The time will come to get going and to really start pushing. But here we are, we're in a space, this is not about lacking discipline. This is about being in a space where we're realizing that anxiety, stress, worry, panic, all of these things are very real. And your first responsibility is to make sure that this mental exhaustion, this emotional exhaustion, this physical exhaustion, that you listen to it, and you honor it. So sorry guys at the business hacks, but I completely disagree with you here. And I think what you're doing is you're spreading an enormous amount of pressure on people who are already stretched to capacity. So be careful, please, as we go through this next month. That self-judgment, that self-criticism, that self-flagellation, just chuck it out the window. Give yourself a break. I took this weekend off. Give yourself a break. Every now and then, just go walk around the garden. You know, if you're lucky enough to be able to just go for a walk, just give yourself a break. This space that we're in, this is one of our biggest stresses, of over controlling every little thing. This is one of these things that we cannot, and we kind of need to be very aware of what I can control and what I can't control, because trying to over control everything here is just going to send us down the rabbit hole of craziness. Being in a space here where we are stressed of what we should be doing because of memes like I've just spoken about, just give yourself some space. Please just give yourself some space. And if you find yourself in a moment where you're giving in and giving up, that too is normal. This is unprecedented times. That too is normal. So as long as you don't give up completely, as long as you have like an hour or a day where you are in a space where you're feeling super stressed, but don't be hard on yourself is what I'm saying. This self-judgment, this self-criticism that everybody else is doing it properly and I'm doing it wrong, please just let's bring this down. This wave that we've got that is escalating because so many people are affected by it, it's real. This collective consciousness is real. And one of the things that we do to break it is to come back into our space and self-honor and self-care and self-protect. So from our message in 2020, in January, these are still very, very appropriate. Use this time to go within. Go into a space where you use this time for connecting within. Go into this space where you say that this is a period of enormous self-awareness and self-growth. There is a new paradigm, there's a new understanding that's coming into our space. Give yourself some time to listen to what that is. So this is where we are right now, and I know that this makes sense to you. If you need help in navigating through this, give me a call and let's do some work if you need some help navigating through this. And here is also an offer. because this is the perfect time to go within. What I have done is I've actually slashed the prices of our sacred conversations and our first breath programs. So if you're in a space where you're finding the doors to the outside are closed and you're ready to go and do some of that inner navigation, I have, in order to support you, I've actually cut the prices of these packages completely. So go and have a look and use this time. And if I can help you to navigate through that, then it would be my honor. But this is where we are right now. It is a huge, huge space that is going on. Be gentle. I think that's the most important thing that I can say is let's be gentle with ourselves. Let's be gentle with each other and let's stay safe. To you, to your family, to your loved ones, to your friends, my prayer is that we are all going to be held in a space of safety as we navigate through this. Stay blessed, stay at home, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will be back with you really soon. Thank you for watching.